Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got a really interesting source to sink into. It's an episode from an English learning series called Learn English Quickly, specifically episode 50. And it's focused entirely on practicing real-life conversations.
Right, conversation practice. Always useful.
Exactly. And what they're, trying to do with this episode is pretty clear. Help listeners speak English more naturally, confidently, and, well, clearly.
I sense.
They tackle everyday topics, daily life, talking about work or study, giving opinions, even handling those awkward moments when you just don't understand.
Oh, yeah, those are crucial.
They do mention it's aimed at an intermediate level, like A2 to B2.
Okay.
And it's designed specifically for learners about 50 minutes, slow, clear English, and they repeat key parts so you can actually practice along.
Right, that repetition is key for language learning. So our mission today, it isn't just to summarize this episode. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
We want to look at how it teaches these conversation skills. What can you, the listener, maybe take away from its structure, its examples, about effective communication practice generally?
Even if English isn't your main focus right now.
Precisely. What's potentially useful here for anyone just trying to, get better at talking to people?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's unpack this source.
Okay, let's do it. So, diving into the source. It kicks off with, well, what you might call the absolute basics of conversation, small talk and daily life.
The starting point.
Yeah, this is roughly the first 10 minutes from about 2.3 to 12.00 in the episode itself.
Got it.
And they set up a really simple scene. Two friends just, bumping into each other on a Monday morning.
Okay, like you do.
The dialogue is super common stuff. Hey, good morning, how was your weekend? One friend says they went hiking, the other stayed home and relaxed. Really relatable.
Yeah, it keeps it grounded.
And right from that simple chat, they pull out some key vocabulary, like went hiking, explained as walking in nature, stayed home, meaning they didn't go out, and relaxed, which they define as, taking it easy.
Just spelling out the obvious, almost, but making it explicit.
Exactly. And what's interesting is how immediately they jump into practice. It's not just passive listening.
Active learning.
Yes, it's repetition. Repeat after me. How was your weekend? And then straight away, they prompt you, the listener, with a personal question. What did you do last weekend? Try saying it.
Ah, okay. So they get you involved right away.
Instantly.
Starting right there with something as universal as talking about your weekend, that seems really smart.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Absolutely. It grounds the language in a low-stakes, familiar situation. Everyone has a weekend, right? Everyone has these casual chats.
True.
Why is starting simple like this so effective?
Well, I think it immediately builds confidence with phrases you're actually likely to use constantly.
And by breaking down those basic phrases and then immediately asking you a personal question, they shift you from just listening passively to actually participating right in the first few minutes.
Yeah, that active practice.
It's crucial for building any skill, really.
Okay, so they lay that foundation with the weekend chat.
Wow.
Where does the source go next?
Well, it seems to build pretty naturally from there. It moves into talking about work or study.
Here we go.
This section runs from about the 12-minute mark to around 20 minutes.
Right. And what kind of conversation example do they give for this part?
They have a dialogue, again, two people asking about each other's jobs or studies. So one is studying computer science at uni, finds it challenging but interesting. The other one works in marketing, mentions they've been doing that for 3 years.
Okay, so typical introductory questions.
Exactly. The questions are things like, so what do you do? Do you enjoy it? And if it's a student, what year are you in? Really standard stuff.
And I assume they highlight these as key phrases, clarifying things like what you do means your job or what you study.
Yep, exactly. And do you enjoy it? Just meaning, do you like it?
Simple clarifications.
Yes, and what's particularly good here, I think, is they explicitly point out the structure of I've been doing it for.
The grammar bit.
Yeah, and they mention it uses the present perfect continuous tense. But they don't just, throw the grammar rule out there. They briefly note it within the conversational context.
That's useful. Practical grammar.
Very, and the practice follows immediately again. Is that the pattern?
Seems to be. More repetition first, like, I'm studying English. I've been learning English for 1 year.
Right.
Then, bam, directly to you again. Now say it about yourself. What do you do?
Okay, so that progression makes sense. From the general weekend chat to slightly more specific personal details about, what you spend a lot of your time doing.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is exactly what you pointed out. They bring in a grammatical concept, like the present perfect continuous, but they frame it entirely around its practical use.
How you'd actually say it.
Right. It's grammar in service of communication, not just some abstract rulebook entry you have to memorize.
Okay, so they've covered basic small talk, work, and study. Next up, and this bit I think is where it gets really interesting,
Uh,
they tackle giving opinions and agreeing, disagreeing. This segment's from about 20 minutes to 30 minutes in.
Navigating subjective topics. Yeah, that definitely feels like a bigger step.
It really is, isn't it? It moves beyond just exchanging facts about your life to expressing personal viewpoints and, maybe more importantly, managing differences in opinion.
That's a tricky area in any language. So what kind of example conversation do they use for this?
They use discussing the new Spider-Man movie.
Okay, relatable again.
Yeah. One person loved it, says it was amazing. The other person, well, they didn't like it that much, thought it was too long.
A common point of contention with movies.
Totally. But then they find some common ground by agreeing that the action scenes were good. It's a perfect, kind of simple scenario for disagreement that isn't, confrontational.
Right, polite disagreement.
And the phrases they pull out are designed for exactly that. Things like, I thought it was amazing, or I didn't like it that much. And then these phrases for managing the difference. That's true, and yeah, maybe.
Softeners. Yeah, maybe.
Yes. They're giving you specific, simple tools to express your view, but also acknowledge someone else's without just saying, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's crucial.
This segment really raises that important question. How do we express disagreement politely? Or find points of agreement even when we differ overall? It's a vital skill for communication, not just, for English learners.
Absolutely. And their practice method here.
It's a mini dialogue. They ask you, the listener, to repeat the opinion and agreement phrases first. And then they ask you questions to answer out loud yourself. Do you like action movies? What's your favorite movie? Why do you like it? They actually tell you to pause and answer.
So it forces you to use the language and structure yourself for your own opinions.
Exactly. It's not just hearing the phrases passively. It's applying them to your own thoughts, even if you're just talking to yourself initially. It's quite a clever way to practice giving opinions, I think.
Yeah, that active application seems key.
Moving on, the source includes a section that's just like pure utility. What to say when you don't understand.
The survival phrases.
Pretty much. This is from 30.0 to 36.0, and it feels incredibly practical for any learner, or honestly for anyone in a complex conversation sometimes.
Absolutely. What do you do when you're lost, when something just doesn't click? They give you the lifeboat phrases.
That's a good way to put it. They list common phrases like, sorry, can you say that again? What does that mean? What? How do you spell that? And the very polite, can you speak a little more slowly, please? Simple, direct, essential, and the example conversation they use.
It's asking for clarification about a TV show name, The Mandalorian.
Okay.
And getting it spelled out. It just shows these phrases in action in a really normal kind of everyday context.
Makes sense. And I assume they have you repeat these phrases to practice.
They do. Repetition is definitely a core technique throughout.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this section is gold, absolute gold.
Why do you say that?
Because mastering these simple phrases dramatically reduces the anxiety you might feel when you don't understand something. It gives you control back in the conversation.
Yeah, agency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can actually fix the communication breakdown instead of just nodding along hoping it makes sense, or worse, just shutting down. It's a really practical focus on communication repair.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, something interesting happens next, from about 36 minutes to 44 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
The source dedicates a whole segment to just learning phrases with context, but they focus on one specific expression. It depends. Yes, it depends. A classic super versatile phrase. What meaning does the source give it?
They explain it quite simply. The answer changes based on the situation. It's not a fixed yes or no.
Right. Context is everything. And they show that with specific examples, which is key, right? Not just the definition.
Exactly. Two really clear scenarios. First, question, do you like working from home? Answer, it depends.
Okay.
And they explain the condition. If I have a lot of work, I prefer the office. Maybe need more focus or fewer distractions.
So it depends on the workload.
Right. Second example. Question. Do you go to the gym every day? Answer. It depends.
Condition being.
The condition. If I'm tired, I sip it.
Oh, okay. That really illustrates the flexibility.
It does. It's actually quite a powerful teaching technique, isn't it? Focusing on just one phrase, but showing its flexibility across different situations.
Definitely. It's not just teaching the definition, it's teaching the function and the nuance of the phrase.
It really helps you, the listener, see how language adapts. And then guess what?
Let me guess, a now you try section.
You got it. Prompting you to answer questions using "it depends." Questions like, do you enjoy studying English? Do you eat out often? Do you like hot weather?
Yeah, making the listener apply the phrase to their own situation immediately. That really solidifies understanding far more than just hearing the definition and a couple of examples. It shows how even these seemingly simple phrases carry significant meaning and flexibility in real conversation.
Absolutely. Okay, so finally, the source wraps up with a section on speak with confidence, tips, and motivation.
Moving beyond the phrases themselves.
Yeah, this is the last section, from about 44 minutes to the end, around 50 minutes. This moves beyond specific language points to the mindset and the practical habits you need for improvement.
That's important too. What tips do they give?
They give 5 powerful tips, listed exactly like this in the source. Number 1, speak every day, even just 5 minutes.
Consistency. Yeah.
Number 2, record yourself.
Ooh, that can be tough, but useful.
Number 3, learn full phrases, not just single words.
Context again.
Number 4, use what you hear in this podcast, meaning the source episode, practice it in real life.
Application.
And number 5, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Crucial. Absolutely crucial. Those are solid tips. And honestly, they're applicable to practicing any new skill, aren't they? Not just language.
Totally agree. And the motivational message they deliver alongside these tips is key, I think.
What's the core message?
It's basically, you don't need perfect grammar. What you need is real connection with people. And that connection comes from confidence.
That's a really valuable perspective. It shifts the goalpost, doesn't it? Away from academic perfection towards just functional, confident communication.
Right. And they even suggest saying a specific affirmation out loud.
Oh, really? What is it?
I speak English with confidence. I can do this. I'm improving every day.
Reinforcing that positive mindset they're trying to build. This final segment really connects back to you, the listener, by addressing the psychological side of it all.
Yeah, the mental game.
The importance of practice, consistency, and really just overcoming that fear of failure, that fear of making mistakes. These aren't just language tips. They're confidence-building strategies for pretty much any communication challenge you might face.
So looking back at this deep dive into the Learn English Quickly episode, we've seen how it takes the listener on a really structured journey.
Yeah, quite logical. Starting from those basic greetings.
Moving through daily life and work-study chat.
Then tackling the slightly trickier areas, like opinions and figuring out misunderstandings.
Before drilling down on that one versatile phrase, it depends.
And finally wrapping up with those practical tips for building confidence and, the right mindset.
And throughout, they use those simple dialogue examples, highlighted specific vocabulary and phrases.
And constantly integrated practice, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Through repetition, asking personal questions.
Yeah, the mini dialogues, giving practical tools for when communication breaks down.
And finishing with solid motivational advice. Seems quite comprehensive.
The source consistently encourages the listener, really pushing them to keep speaking, keep learning, keep going.
Yeah, framing fluency or just improvement in general as this step-by-step process built on listening, repeating, and actually speaking.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. How does this consistent practical application that's emphasized so much in this source episode, how does that compare to other ways we often try to learn or improve skills in our own lives?
That's a good question. Is there something you are trying to get better at right now? And thinking about this source, what's maybe one small step you could take today, maybe even just for 5 minutes, like they suggest to actually practice it?
And importantly, to consciously work on reducing that fear of making mistakes, just like the source encourages. Something to think about.